sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Man, it feels like forever since I've even been up and on and hanging out with you guys here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, live from in Denver. Wherever and however you may be watching and listening, thanks for making us part of your day. We got a lot to talk about. NHL. With the Olympics have now come to a close. Team USA really made all of us proud in the Olympics in Milano Cortina. And what a tournament. What a great masterclass it's been from all of our Team USA representatives, all of our Olympians. Really proud of all of them. But there's so much to talk about. Also, NFL buzzes as well happening in the off season, because there's definitely franchise tags that are going to happen. And there's also been some signings that are also potentially happening as we go in the middle of the show. Really appreciate all of you guys for being here today. So I definitely wanted to recap what happened in the Olympics with the United States walking away second place amongst all of the medals and of all of the represented countries that have competed in these tournaments. So first of all, I want to recap arguably the best year that it's been for the United States in hockey. So both the women's and both the men's, congratulations to both of them for winning the gold medal games, and in fashion in an overtime. That was chilling, but it was so exciting to watch, because here's the thing. The NBA is eventually going to have to figure this all out when it comes to the All-Star games, when it comes to a lot of their young domestic stars, because from what I watched in the Olympics and then mostly in hockey, you could tell the breeds in which all of the respective countries that have competed, you can tell from all of their star powers. And if you've got the most amount of star power up and on your side, you're competing in this thing. But remember, I will talk about this. This is a two-part segment onto this, because only two different countries did not compete this year. And I'll explain about that. But the United States, Canada, Finland, Sweden, even Czech Republic, there were a bunch of countries that came out and competed. But you also got to understand, Czech Republic, I would have expected a little bit more, but they didn't have the goaltender. And that's what's the hardest part. I love David Pastrnak. I love Tomas Hertl. And I love a lot of their forwards and defensemen that we know can play. But if you don't have the goaltender right, that's where a lot of your problems are going to stem from. But that's why Finland, having Jussi Saros, really did help out a lot. Because if you watched Jussi Saros in Nashville, like, he's a really good goaltender and defended amongst a lot of really good offensive players. Sebastian Aho, Mikko Rantanen. The thing about what you're seeing from the talent pools internationally is why the NBA is going to have to figure themselves out when it comes to their domestic stars and in the NBA, because of this whole entire cesspool of international players coming here. And that's the one thing too. The NHL has done a great job with producing up the best talents, foreign and domestic. They have also provided platforms whether Canada or in the United States, where they have a lot of teams that we know are looking for talented players, offensively, defensively, and goaltending. And they've gone out international waters or here in the domestic states, and they've scouted and they found a lot of these players, even if they're 15, 16 years old playing in junior hockey. They found a lot of these kids. And it's all about the build, which is why the NBA needs to have a healthy relationship with its college basketball stars. Because if you're not, your draft picks are not going to have any more powerful meaning towards them than what the NFL does. These guys are day one starters right up and off the bat. So what they've done well, and more in particular up and into this game, Canada had the stacked roster, but even so did the United States. They both clashed. They both were the best of the best. And listen, the double doink, of course, living here in Colorado, they're not going to live that down with Nathan McKinnon. That's going to be stuck on replay in the back of his head for the remainder of the season. Hopefully not longer than that, because you got to be able to get forward with that. You got to get over it. But the United States, what they know how to do is overcome the odds, which is why Canada stood there. And Canada, they are chirping, saying the 3-on-3, it ain't hockey. And then at the same time, we deserve to win it because we were the most talented team. Well, let me ask you a question. Even with a stacked team, even in a situation where you pushed in overtime, you really think you would have deserved to win? You didn't even overcome the adversity. I mean, you had a double doink. How did you figure that out later? You didn't. The United States, they played great defense. Zach Werenski and Quinn Hughes, they were a great duo on the defense. And they even had a lot of other forwards who are willing to go in, throw their stick in, force the pucks out, and then get back on offense. That's what they were willing to do. And it all took all up and into the end, where it's so nostalgic to me, because then you think about the 1980s team and where they won it in dramatic fashion. And that's what I felt like we got from Jack Hughes. The minute that Zach Werenski went up, forced up, stood his ground, stood on the ice, and then got the pass up to Jack Hughes to nail it up and into the corner to beat Jordan Binnington, it was an instant classic. It was so nostalgic. It makes you think so much about what the 1980s team was about. Now, remember, this is the first time since 2014 that we have introduced back the NHL stars. And it's more meaningful. These guys get paid a lot more. They get paid a lot of money, and they represent their countries in the best way possible. They're professionals. They love this game, and they mostly love the countries they represent. That's what's the most important part. And that's where, when I think about it with the Olympics, because you're going to have the best of the best stars, and you're going to have the best of the best athletes. They represent up in tournaments. They represent in opens. They go to a lot of these different tournaments for a lot of various reasons. So I congratulate both the men's and women's United States team, because hockey has a different feel to it. I mean, we all love the NFL here in the States because of the Super Bowl and the commercials that come along with it. But we have a different feeling when it comes to hockey, and you're in the foreign state, you're in the foreign countries, and you're representing for your country strong. And then in the end of it, you beat arguably the country that represents hockey well, next to Russia, because them and Russia, they've won the Olympics 9 times in the entirety of their existence. And so for the United States to win it for a third time in their existence is proud. And the way that they did it, I mean, look, I looked at both the faces of the men's and women's of the Canadian teams. I get it. Competition, it's hard. But you won a medal. You brought home to your home country to at least have that reputation. We can't compete. And it's hard to really swallow that, because a lot of it, competition, egos, it all kind of comes up and into it. It's really hard to find a balance behind that. So here's my second part to this conversation, because after watching the Olympics, and I thought it was great, United States really stood strong, second in medals count. But listen, the Norwegians came in and they competed and they gave it everything that they got. But you also got to remember, all these countries, all these respective countries that come to compete in the Olympics, they all have different strong suits for different competitions and tournaments. Okay, like Italy, they're more particular, like figure skating, luge, speed skating, lots of in particular in-depth type of competitions is what they're about, because they love their athletes to be the strongest, healthiest, and then at the same time they're more pivotal because of the workouts that they do. I'm watching the cross country skiing, and I cannot believe like Norway and Sweden, they have really good men's and women's athletes that they train hard every single day, and they're putting their bodies through hell. I couldn't even imagine going through a 50-kilometer cross country skiing where I have to go uphill, downhill, side to side. I mean, that's just the nature of it. But then you also look at the respective countries who know what competition is about in these tournaments, i.e. the ice hockey for both men's and women's. So that's what they're known and they represent very well for. So where does the Olympics kind of go from here in the next 4 years when we have our next Winter Olympics, which will be in Germany? So this is where I started thinking about this, because I watched the interviews with the new IOC president, Madam President, who came up and she talked to Mike Tirico about, what's the plan? And then at the same time, they're talking a lot about, the meanings of what you have to be and what you got to be in when you compete in these Olympics. So it was talking a lot about Russia not competing because of the global states right now that's happening with a lot of their politics, Vladimir Putin, and not to mention you kind of get hit with a banned substance. And so there's some things I can understand and some things I question about, because here's what I remember about the Olympics. And I wasn't even alive to even see this, but I've watched a lot of different tapes and reruns. But here's the facts. We have competed in the Olympics when World War II was happening, during Hitler's regime in Germany. Okay. And we went through that. And it was very, very scary. You weren't sure how things were going to really work itself out, because Germany was going through their reign and regime with the Axis powers, and then not to mention Joseph Stalin in Russia, so in the Soviet Union. So there was all sorts of different political aspects to every different country that they were dealing with their own internal struggles, just like what we're dealing with our own internal struggles. Every country has this. But here's the part which also kind of made me question this, because if we're talking about, Vladimir Putin, and we're talking about the state of Russia, well, here's the thing. They have their own internal struggles, and they all know that. And a lot of these Russian athletes, i.e. Alexander Ovechkin, Nikita Kucherov, all these players, they know that. And then I look at the United States with our own internal political struggles. And it was like not too long ago, you saw Dylan Larkin celebrating the gold medal with the FBI director, Kash Patel. And they're already going through their own internal struggles because of just the entire waves of ice. I'm not getting into it. But here's the thing. I just feel like there has to be a line in between to where, even with political struggles in every country is going to go through that. We went through the Olympics during World War II under Hitler's regime. We went through playing the Olympics when the Soviet Union in the Cold War was a big thing. That's why the 1980s Miracle on Ice team was so meaningful, because you looked at the Soviet Union, one of the best athletes up and into the ice, and they lost to college and even high school athletes. They lost to a bunch of college and high school kids. And what's meaningful about that? So I feel like, and listen, I'm not trying to throw, the IOC Madam President on, I'm not trying to throw her under the bus, but the fact of the matter is, every country, every state, even in the United States, has internal struggles politically. I won't get into the entirety of it, but this whole tournament and the Olympics could have looked so much different had Russia competed. And I've said this before in my show, is that if I had to look at the top 4 best countries representing in men's hockey, I would have said United States, Canada, Finland, and Russia, and maybe sprinkle in some Sweden, Czech Republic. I would have sprinkled those in. But remember, every single one of those countries in those teams only have a certain amount of star players until all of a sudden there's nothing. Like Italy didn't even walk away with a win in ice hockey, but they're more particular and more precise with the individual competitions, the figure skate, luge, bobsledding, curling, a lot of them. That's the same. That's why Norway dominated in the fashion that they did, because look, we're not probably going to be strong enough in ice hockey, but you know what? We will take on the particulars because we have the solos, the duos, the groups. We have a lot of those different competitions everywhere, and that's what they were known for. So to me, Russia eventually is going to get back up and into this tournament, because if you go another 4 years and you don't have Russia in the Winter Olympics, amongst now having adopted NHL players back into the Olympics, what's the point and what's the meaning of it? And this is where I feel for Alex Ovechkin, because he understands the state in which his country is in with the leadership of Vladimir Putin. Okay, there was a documentary about it. Go look it up, where there was the Russian 5 in Detroit with the Red Wings. Remember when they ended up winning the Stanley Cups as they did? There was a lot of internal struggles that was happening up and within. And all of these players at the time, and even Steve Yzerman had to figure this. He had to understand this too. But a lot of these players, they either have retired as players or they retired and now they are political officials for their countries, and only for the right reasons. And so all of these players I wish I could just play. I wish I could just play without all of this internal political struggle. Man, don't we all? And so that's why I think with Russia, they got to figure their stuff out. But at the same time, when I look at the Madam President of the IOC, there has to be a line that's drawn that makes it understanding more than anything else. Because if not, then I don't know what to tell you. So I personally hope that Russia does come back to this, because listen, if Russia competed this year, Alex Ovechkin, this would have been the last cherry on top for his career. Now he has to wait 4 years. He's not even going to be physically capable. Maybe. I mean, Russian players are built different, but he's not going to be that physically capable for the next 4 years to go and play into a tournament like the Olympics. That's where I felt bad for. And I saw it. I saw the interview and somebody asked, is he going to watch the Olympics? And he said, no, because he understands the competition is like, we have a stacked and loaded roster ourselves, not just Canada, not just the US, not just Finland. We have our whole stacked roster. I mean, Andrei Vasilevsky, Andrei Svechnikov, Alex Ovechkin, Nikita Kucherov, Nikita Kudzev, Nikita Zadorov. They have a lot of really good players. So eventually they'll figure this out. But again, I understand the internal struggles behind all of that for every respective country, because all of them are going to go through that for their own politics. I'm not going to sit here and basically tell you all that you need to know about it, but all I know is it's difficult. It's difficult having to go through all of that. So again, I'm not trying to throw any kind of shade into the IOC Madam President, but I hope that they can understand that, because the conversation all struck up when they were talking about the next 2 years when we have the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. And they started talking about, well, the politics in California. That's all internal with the United States. It doesn't have to deal with the international waters because all they're trying to do, and they work hand in hand with all of the respective international representatives, even if it's, NATO and a lot of people, they all work hand in hand in this because they want this to be a generalized, safe, and yet respective competition. But at the same time, like, it has to make sense. And then look, I understand the intimidation with Vladimir Putin. I really do, especially with what's happened between Russia and Ukraine. But even United States deals with its own political internal struggles, especially when you're dealing with the ICE raids and all that. It happens. It's everywhere. Every country around the globe all goes through all of this. But eventually, maybe we'll see Russia up and into this, but I feel bad for Alex Ovechkin that he didn't get a chance to compete, because this would have been the icing on the cake that would have ended his career. So, good stuff. I will tell you, though, it's pretty tough. It's a pretty tough world, but the only way that we can honestly make it better is when we do sports, because sports unifies everybody. It unifies every country, unifies every athlete, and it's a great competition. All right, good stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the NFL as well, because we had a couple of moves that had just happened in the last couple of days, and the state of a couple of teams that I look at that I think there's going to be a lot of changes in, like, up into this point, with new coaches, new players. We're going to really identify all of those here up and onto the show. So the has landed a great sponsorship, and more importantly, through the help of those who are struggling to quit smoking or quit vaping, or giving them a healthier alternative to both. And I know I'm proud that my parents, as my newborn son had arrived, that they have made a path to no longer smoke, no longer deal with that nicotine kick that is harsh on your body. It's harsh on your lungs. It's harsh on your throat. It's a lot of things that eventually catch up to you if you don't stop. Well, the Snake Sports Talk Show is proud to be partnered with Slapple. The only way to slap your cravings is by their best of the best nicotine gum. Company based out of California. And they figured it out. They cracked the code. What it takes to make it an irresistible flavor to help to crush your cravings. And they come in many different flavors. Lemon, mint, peach, watermelon. Now listen, I had never smoked in my life, but I do know that I've heard a lot of great reviews, and a lot of people who are struggling with the everyday nicotine kick and the stresses have really loved this product. Check it out for yourself. It's called Slapple. And check it out. You also will see the code on the bottom. And when you go online, make sure you use the promo code SNAKESPORTS for when you sign up and you get your own tin. We also have great samples to try up for yourselves. Message up for me on how you can get those samples. And at the same time, a new, healthier alternative to helping with your nicotine kick. That's Slapple, and check it out for yourself today, slapple.com. Chose Slapple to slap away your cravings.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Check out our great merchandise list here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. If you can't get enough of the show and you want to represent and show off your colors, check out the link in the description. SnakeSportsTalkShow.com is where you can find our great list of merchandises and also keeping up with all of our best sales. All right. So a couple moves have happened up in the NFL, and one of those was the Dallas Cowboys right now, who have done two things. So one they've already done, and that was they have re-signed running back Javonte Williams, which was the smartest thing that they can do, because number one is, are you really going to want to go through reloading and even recycling running backs, as you've already have gone through running back health for the last few years? And the Cowboys, they looked at this and went, no, we don't want to be in this position again. And I could totally understand this. So the Cowboys re-signed Javonte Williams, smartest move that they can make, and it was the right decision. 3 years, $24 million extension with $16 million guaranteed. And here's the thing. Javonte Williams was also looking for a home, and he hadn't found that until he got into Dallas. Now, part of that is because, not saying he's completely injury prone, but he had dealt with a lot of injuries all throughout the tenure. And going from Denver to going to Dallas, this is the healthiest Javonte Williams has ever looked like. Now, here's the other thing, too. You got a youngster, Jaden Blue, who I'm not entirely sure that how he's going to end up when he comes back from injury. So that was the best move that they could do. You've got a really good running back duo, and that's what NFL teams are starting to figure out. You can't just have your one all be all and end all running back that's going to help you up and out of the run game. You got to address more than that, because your star back might be injured or he might be taking a day off, and you got to help to fix the situation while you still can when that door opens up. Now, the other thing is Cowboys COO Stephen Jones ended up confirming this week that they're going to plan to put a franchise tag on George Pickens. As he mentioned, quote, "We think the world of him and we want him here." Now, this is basically what the business aspect of the NFL looks like. Is they want to keep George Pickens because they know and they realize that he's going to be a hot commodity the minute he's out and into the free agent market. Somebody is going to spend the amount of money to make all of that happen. And this is the best look of the Dallas Cowboys offense that we have seen in a very, very long time. So I agree to this, is that when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, I believe that I feel as though the Cowboys really have to be smart at this free agency. And they're already starting to do this right now. You re-signed Javonte Williams to keep your star back, and you have Jaden Blue, who's going to be coming back from injury, and you could even maybe go and get somebody up into the draft to help out with your running back by committee list. And I like that idea. Now, with George Pickens, that's the best number 2 option that Dak Prescott has had since he's been a starting quarterback. And it's been a long time coming from there. So, because think about it, you had to deal with Michael Gallup being hurt, Terrence Williams being hurt all the time, and they haven't had a healthy, stronger number 2 receiver. That's just saying that out of respect. And so Dallas's offense now looks very overpowering. And they've got a young offensive line that they've been developing. You've got your tight end sets where they're only going to get better up from here. And I also do think they also have some specialties with Jalen Tolbert and even with Devontae Turpin. So the Cowboys, Jerry Jones has to really be smart about this. And I think at the same time, I can see with what Stephen Jones is trying to also address, and he's also trying to point out for his dad. Because at the end of it, we all have seen, people have said, there ain't no way Jerry Jones is going to make this move. He's going to screw it up. And yeah, we've seen that. But I think this is the turn. This is the turn of the leaf for them. And I love with the way that this looks. So the Dallas Cowboys know that Philadelphia, they're pissed. They want to be better because the offensive coordinator that they had in Kevin Patullo was not working. And then at the same time, they want to be competing more. The Giants just got themselves John Harbaugh. They have an entire culture built. And then you've got the Washington Commanders, who Jaden Daniels, when he ends up getting healthy, they're going to be a lot better next year. So this is the opportunity in which Dallas cannot afford to take for granted. The draft picks, the capitals, and not to mention they let go of Logan Wilson, which they can find a linebacker up and into this draft because it's chock full rich of them. But remember, they have to think about that. They got to think about corner after you let go of Trayvon Diggs. You got to think about a couple of different spots. And I think they're off to the right start in making that happen. But it's not an easy journey road, guys. It's really not. I've seen this happen before. And the Cowboys, I can honestly say, are finally doing things right. They're doing things that are officially going to help them in this predicament. And you're going to see that through and through, whether it's for the better or it's just for the worse. So it's incredible with how we can see this, honestly, from just this perspective. But this Cowboys offense, if you let George Pickens go, now you got to find another number 2 receiver. And do you really want to go through that hell? Do you really want to go through that headache alone in trying to find another number 2 receiver? I mean, running back, truthfully, was kind of a little bit of a bonus to them. And they love Javonte Williams. They love what he looks like. He's healthy, and respectfully so, he should get paid. So the Cowboys, there's a lot of things to think about, but they're going to have a heck of an offseason. Time now for the news.
And now, here we go. Hey, everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
Lots of stories breaking out, and especially up and into the NFL. But college basketball has been looking really, really good thus far, and I'm just waiting to see it. So here's an interesting thing. So this is in the world of boxing, and it just came out as the announcement that Floyd Mayweather is coming back into the boxing realm. And now we're seeing exactly what the matchup is going to be, and it's going to be against his rival Manny Pacquiao. for September 19th in the rematch of Pacquiao versus Mayweather 2 in the Sphere in Las Vegas, and it will be streamed globally on Netflix. So the announcement came just days after Mayweather announced his intentions to come out of retirement following his 26th exhibition against Mike Tyson, and had signed a multi-fight partnership with CSI Sports and Fight Sports. So, and Pacquiao came out of retirement himself last July and battled the then WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios to a majority draw. So he will compete in an exhibition when he faces Ruslan Provodnikov in April 18th at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas. And so it is not yet known what weight class the fight will be contested at, or over how many rounds. So this is my big thing with boxing, is that we're needing something. And I love it. Terrence Crawford and Tyson Fury and a bunch of other really good boxing stars. Even when you watch Anthony Joshua, I mean, these are big time boxing studs. And so they're needing something big. And usually when I look at this, I feel like that this is kind of a cash cow, in my opinion. And the way that I describe this is, it's just another entertaining matchup, in my opinion. I don't even know if I do take this seriously because of the ages of both these fighters. I love Manny Pacquiao when he was fighting. I have also really liked, Floyd Mayweather being 50-0 in his career. And I thought that was the whole point, that why he retired. So there's a lot of that I feel like it's just more of a cash cow, in my opinion. So that's where we're going to end up seeing from here. More news in the NFL, and of course, as franchise tags are going to be placed before the March 4th free agency market officially opens, the Atlanta Falcons ended up mentioning that they plan to place the franchise tag on tight end Kyle Pitts, likely keeping one of the top tight ends in the league under contract for at least one more season. Now, the franchise tag's contract numbers are based upon the top 5 annual salaries at each position. So, as it stands, Kyle Pitts would be making upwards of $16.3 million in 26, and the franchise tag salary this year for tight ends, according to overthecap.com. So they have until July 15th to agree to a long-term contract, or else he will end up playing under the franchise tender. So Kyle Pitts, 25 years old, finished second amongst the tight ends in receptions, receiving yards last season, trailing behind only Trey McBride, and also had a career-high 5 touchdown catches as he was named second-team All-Pro. So it was a slow start from Kyle Pitts, from coming up out of Florida, and I thought he was very talented. I really thought he'd be a hit, but we know the rookie season was a fun watch, but now it was taking the steps, and that was what was the challenging part. So now he comes off of a year, second-team All-Pro, second in receptions and yardages amongst Trey McBride, and had a career high of 5 touchdown catches. So this is a different look now with Kevin Stefanski, and as I've been saying, the offense really has to work, and Michael Penix really has to work. So that is where you have to satisfy those things, because now it tells me that you are now the quarterback of the future. And not only that, you also got to have an offensive game plan. Michael Penix had a couple times where there were some mental mistakes that were in the middle of it that didn't quite work out right. And that happens. I'm not going to knock him up and onto it, but it does happen for a lot of these youngsters. So now with Michael Penix going to be behind center, he's going to be under center. I think, in my opinion, with how Kevin Stefanski works, he loves the embodiment of, pocket quarterbacks. Luckily with Michael Penix, he can move around a little. And the Falcons, they really have to figure out their offense, because it felt really stagnant under Raheem Morris. But I think the Falcons this year, they're going to look a lot better. I would increase the win totals than what they had this past season. I think they'll be much better than what they were at just about a couple seasons ago. So that's going to do it now for the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
So the NFL offseason, and this is what's going to be fun because you're seeing a lot of the franchise tags happening right now. And they're all happening because these are players who are coming off of really good years. So they don't want to lose these players coming off of really good years that will potentially land them big time contract monies. And at the same time, the players want to get paid. Now, these organizations, Atlanta, like I mentioned, they did not want to end up losing Kyle Pitts because I feel that Kevin Stefanski and what he also had been able to do with David Njoku was very impressive. So they want to basically make this build similarly. And I feel like this is the opportunity in which Kyle Pitts could have that. But I also do know this. Players do want to get paid, and players want to also compete in these specifics. So I know that too. But as you're seeing from a lot of these organizations, they're making a lot of different moves for a few reasons. One is because they feel like they did not hit on the positions they thought they addressed. So that wasn't the case. The other problem is that they may have an awful lot of money that they didn't quite think, like they thought it would hit, and that wasn't even the case. Like when you pay the big top dollar bucks to some of these players and they're not quite hitting on all cylinders, that does become a cap problem. So that's where a lot of these contract releases start to happen. And they're happening pretty early, much more than you think. So teams right now, like the Chiefs had just released Mike Dana, and the Chargers now had just announced that Bradley Bozeman has retired. So, and they're in a market to getting a center because you have got to help Justin Herbert in every single way possible as you can. So a lot of these teams are addressing them, and they're addressing them for their own reasons, which is why teams that this is the fun part of being competitive in the NFL and even in all major sports is you're addressing the problems that stood in front of you for either a year or more. And then at the same time, winning teams, like any of them that won a Super Bowl or any of them that won a championship of some kind, they're trying to keep the window open, which is why, like Seattle, they've got talented players, but I don't know if they're going to have enough to re-sign Kenneth Walker. If they let him walk and they can't re-sign him, there's a problem there, and they're going to have to figure it out very quickly. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba is your star receiver. So, and they have a bunch of players that are young. They're not quite under contracts, and they know that, and they know that they're going to want a bigger payday. So that's why they have to be smart at that. And then there's also other teams that they don't even have a quarterback, and they're going to need one, and they're going to have to address it somehow. But do you address it into the draft? Do you address it in free agency? What's good in free agency that will help you to get into that position to compete? Which is why, the Giants with John Harbaugh, they've got a quarterback, they've got a running back. They just have to clean up the messes in which either worked or they didn't work. And then at the same time, get something back in return that's also going to help you. It's all about, amongst return of investment. Because if you're paying up these players, the return is that the build in which you're trying to put together actually comes into fruition. which is why free agency is going to be so much fun to watch. When you watch this and you see this all unfold and how you look at the competitive teams right now that you and I both know are going to be competitive. So that's the part in which I'm excited for. I can't wait for what the free agent market is going to look like at the end of the day, and the teams addressing positions, because you and I will see who are the smarter teams that are understanding it and seeing it, and who are the teams that I don't know if that's going to be really worth the fit, depending on the scheme you're running. So that's what I'm previewing a lot about the NFL free agency. Going to take a break here up and into a bit as we close out up and onto the show here. Don't go anywhere. Snake Sports Talk Show.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Good to have all of you guys in here up and onto the show. What a fantastic weekend it was. And, like I said, it honestly does feel like just time just rolls by so quickly. But at the same time, it just kind of feels like, man, I've been away for a longer amount of time than I should have been. But, such is life, and that's life changes, But the Olympics was a great showing. In the United States, they competed in the best way. And then, we had the NBA All-Star Game, which you kind of figure it's all international from here on out. I don't even know if it's going to honestly get better with all of our domestic stars, but you hope, you'd cross your fingers that it will be. But even we can't even be sure about that either. You just can't. And then at the same time, here's the other thing. We're not even close to the entire stacked year of sports as a whole, because the World Baseball Classic is going to be right up around the corner. And I love watching that. And then you got the World Cup. So sports has been so good to all of us as Americans, consumers, and seeing with what the state of these leagues, and then not to mention in these tournaments what they're going to look like. So again, 2 years until we see the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. So there are so many things that are happening, and I love this for many of that reason, because not only does it keep your average sport guy like myself pretty much occupied amongst, being there for my family as per usual, the number one thing. But it also keeps me entertained for a few reasons, because I love watching a lot of our worldly classy competitions that we have. So again, the World Baseball Classic, it's going to be a good one because they view the United States as underdogs in this tournament. And remember, the United States only won this tournament one time since the World Baseball Classic got adopted. Now, usually this tournament it's mostly played amongst, a lot of the 18 and ups, a lot of the college, high school athletes around the country that they play around all the states that they come and compete. And it's a lot of these youngsters. Now, the only difference of it is that in this stage, because you're facing off against a lot of great athletes from around the world that are either playing in the KBO, the Japanese league, the Mexican league, all over. And it's a lot of fun. Now, I've always said this because the United States, they know that their biggest competition is they just have to be smart with their pitching. And then at the same time, the lineup has to hit. It has to hit. This year, you got Bryce Harper and you got Bobby Witt Jr. You got a lot of great stars up from here. And then Tariq Skubal and Paul Skeens. That's a great 1-2 punch. Now, everywhere else, like the Dominican Republic, I've always known, has had a great lineup. Just pitching is always a question mark. Japan always seems to have, because the Japanese pool has been electrifying. They've had great hitters. They've had really good pitchers. They've always been very crafty when it comes to pitching because they're always throwing this funky stuff that nobody can even hit. And then there's, Puerto Rico, you sprinkle in a little bit up from here and there. Australia doesn't quite have a whole lot of the firepower that you would hope that they would. Great Britain, surprisingly, had a bunch of players that I was pretty impressed with. Mexico competed in the best way possible. I remember when having Randy Arozarena, I mean, that was their Achilles heel. Everybody else was playing very well. Rowdy Tellez. Then you look at the Israeli team, the Italians. I mean, this stage is so great for sports, and it's happening all at once as we're starting the year of 26. So we just wrapped up the tournament of the Olympics. Now we go into the World Baseball Classic starting March 4th. And then when we get into June, we got the FIFA World Cup. So everything is all happening. And then, of course, everything that's happening up in the States. You've got the NBA playoffs, the trade deadline that already passed. You have the NHL trade deadline, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then you have the NFL draft, and then you're going up and into another season to where you down the road, you've got the World Series, you got the NBA Finals, you got the Stanley Cup Final. There's all sorts of things that happen in here, but this is why the sports market in itself is just grand. Because now, I love it when we're competing against all of the worldly talents, because sometimes a lot of us Americans love to be, cocky about the athletes we have and competing in the biggest stages. So now that we've gone through this and we were second amongst, the Norwegians in the Olympics, and then behind us, I was very surprised that the Netherlands trumped Italy because I thought they put on a grand show. And now you're going to have Germany next 4 years in the Winter Olympics, and it's going to be a little bit more similar, but also have a few modifications in the end of it. But I just love the fact of how the United States just competes the way that they do. I mean, it really makes us all proud, and I can never ever get enough of it. So I really love it, and I think that for these next couple of tournaments, because once we get through World Baseball Classic, you're going to have now the World Cup, and honestly, I don't even know how that's going to end up at all. Because to me, the World Cup, we've got really good players. I mean, Christian Pulisic leading the way, but are we going to be more defensive again, or are we going to be offensive, or is there going to be a good, healthy mixture? Because the United States really has to work their ways in, and they've got to be better than what the last couple of years has given us. And now that we have a new coach, that's where the men's national team really has to show up and show out. All righty, folks. Appreciate all of you guys for being here up and onto the show. That's our special guest, Corey Hopkins, joining us here up on the show as we cap NFL. We're going to be talking a lot too about what we should prepare for the Summer Olympics, as well as the adopted flag football game is also now going to be up and into the Olympics. So appreciate all of you guys for being here and joining us here up and onto the show. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. See you later, everyone.